Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hearing News. Kia ora, Chewie. How are you, mate?
Kia ora, Pat. It is friend Chewie also. I'm good.
We should have done this before we started, but we were a bit rushed here at the end. Our levels were pretty terrible last night, bro. Your levels were way down and mine were way up. And when I went to edit them, it made it really hard. So I think you should, I haven't even seen your levels, but if you can jack yourself up by about 10, 20, 30%, might make it useful. Sorry, whānau.
I did do that yesterday on prompting from the chat.
Right.
So it might have been quiet at the start.
I turned myself down tonight as well, so hopefully we're a bit closer. Anyway, this is where we're at. Hi team, welcome on board. Tonight's show is going to feature quite a lot about what's going on sort of in Parliament today, or in Parliament in general over the last month or so, and this announcement made by the government today about treaty obligations with school boards. Te Pāti Māori, the leadership challenges, what's happening in there. We've got coming up in just a couple of seconds, parliamentary-based political correspondent for Waatea and former National Party MP under John Key, Claudette Hauiti is coming up. Just a couple of seconds to talk all about that. And also, I was just watching Bomber, and Bomber had JT. It looked like he was driving a car.
He was driving, Pat.
You know that's going to be the headline tomorrow, eh? There's going to be nothing about what was said, and it's going to be driving whilst talking. That's going to be the headline. But anyway, I thought JT was there for about four and a half minutes. Maybe at the end of the show tonight, for people who haven't seen that, we'll just let you know, kind of from the horse's mouth, someone within the ranks of all of whatever is going on at the moment, getting to share his thoughts and views as well. Yeah, and also, of course, as a part of this whole conversation, the Pāti Māori leaders have come out backing John Tamihere. Interesting hearing Debbie, and we will play some audio video for you. Interesting hearing Debbie say on the news tonight, no, I didn't really like John Tamihere when I first met him, but then she explained how, from her perspective, he is someone of significant skill in this world, and that's what she leans on. Also want to say I have a correction for last night. We were talking about Te Pāti Māori MPs who have got like a razor thin margin, and I mentioned Hannah's name because I knew she'd won by a couple of thousand, and in my stupid head I go, a couple of thousand out of a few million, that's not very much, but of course it's a couple of thousand out of 11 or 12,000. So she actually won by 11%. So I want to retract that and pull it back. And actually JT kind of confirmed that, because in his conversation on Bomber's show he talks about 4 MPs that will not have no possibility of losing, and one of them he mentioned Hannah. So just want to make sure that's clear. That was my error last night of my brain thinking about numbers rather than percentiles. So we'll get that out there. Other than that, Chewie, I think we'll crack into it because we've got Claudette with us, and we do want to get into it and get this conversation going. And I've had correspondence from a few people kind of talking about, it would be good to hear Māori perspective on this. You guys are lovely, you ginger rodeo clowns from Dunedin, but it would be good to hear a perspective of someone who understands more, I guess, the inner workings of Māori Dim in general. And just so you know, anytime we talk about approach, have a conversation that we don't know enough about, we always try and ask people on, but because we run 4 or 5 nights a week, sometimes it just doesn't line up and we have to go ourselves, because we can't not talk about the lead story on One News, because then what would happen is everyone would say, oh, why aren't they talking about Maori Party? It's like, so we got to do it. So let's welcome to the show the Parliament-based political correspondent for Waatea, former National Party MP under the John Key government. It is Claudette Hauiti. Claudette, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Nā mihi ki a koutou katoa, nā mihi ki a korua, rawe ki te korero i a koutou katoa.
It's not really the conversation for tonight, but you were an MP under John Key, and I haven't heard you talk about this with Bomber or anything either. When you look at this government and what they're doing and how they're operating, what do you think compared to how you operated under a former National Party Prime Minister?
Well, you can't compare the two parties, and you can't compare the two leaders either. They're very, very different. So they've got very different styles in terms of how they manage their caucus. John Key was quite hands off. He had a really strict sergeant of arms in Wayne Eagleson.
Right.
Christopher Luxon, he likes to be a little bit more hands-on. He likes to be involved in the policies as well too. If you kind of notice, if he has a stand-up with his ministers, he has a tendency to take over. John Key never did that. He allowed his ministers to speak to their policies. The other thing, though, the most outstanding difference between this current National Party and the John Key Party is that the John Key Party had a moral base, and that was in the individual Bill English. And so they don't have that moral compass in this current caucus. And I can't emphasize it enough. That moral compass did come in in Bill English. And then there were a couple of really strong Māori senior members in Hekia Parata and Tauhenare, particularly Tauhenare, who was the leader of the Māori Select Committee, really strong when it came to tikanga. And so he was deferred to as well as Hekia. We don't have that with this current party.
It's interesting you would say that as well. I think Toe and I follow each other on Twitter, and maybe like what you're saying, you can see he doesn't see his national party in this national party as well. It's fairly clear he's in a similar position, and it intrigues me as well. I dig on religion a little bit, Claudette, so forgive me for this, but I'm pretty sure that Bill English would often say his Catholic faith was one of the things that he found his moral compass in, and then you've got a prime minister now who adheres to some kind of evangelical Christian faith, and it's sort of the opposite. It's kind of weird how it can go either way depending on who they are, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, can't comment on that. Don't know enough about that. But what I can say about Bill English, and I don't know him that well, but he was more grassy rootsy, and his wider whānau were more grassy rootsy, community based as well. And of course, Dr. Mary, Bill's wife, who came from, working class stock from Wellington, her mother, Italian, father, Samoan. So, we've got those kinds of backgrounds that do have an impact on Bill English's whakaaro. And he also had, I've got to say, a really strong private secretary in Amo Haere Haukamo, who actually opened the doors of John Key and Bill English to allow the iwi Leaders Forum to have an open door policy to the national government of the time. Wow. And again, we don't have any of that, none of that with this current government.
I guess the iwi leader conversation is very apropos for tonight, and you'd say with this current government, it would feel like from the outside looking in, it's fairly opposite. I did a bit of a toss-up today. I probably haven't got everything, but this is what I wrote down. Māori Health Authority, Māori Wards legislation, Treaty Principle Bill, Regulatory Standards Bill, prioritising English in government departments, Marine and Coastal Area Bill, road signs, removing Te Tiriti obligations from schools, future bonuses for public servants who speak fluent Te Ao Māori stopped or being stopped, ending co-governance, halting He Puapua, repeal of Section 7A of Oranga Tamariki, stopping smoke-free 2025 with disproportionately impacted Māori, cutting funding for Matariki, cutting funding for Māori housing programs. And I've probably missed on some, but any one singular one in and of itself, you might go, well, that's just a policy, but putting them all together and talking about the iwi forum going in to see John Key, I just can't imagine how this government can say anything other than they are an anti-Māori government.
And so Māori feel that they've been bashed and battered by this current coalition government, and your list of stuff just goes to highlight just how much of a battery Māori have had in the last couple of years. The clawback of a whole lot of initiatives that were actually started under a national government. The Māori Health Authority, Whānau Ora, they all started under that. The repeal of seabed foreshore, they started under that John Key, Bill English government, and this government has repealed it. Now, there's a couple of things here, I guess, and one of them you can say that from Nicola Willis's comments on Mata with Mihi Ngārangi Forbes, she said that they wouldn't have had so much of a profile or, highlighted so many issues around Te Māori, but because of their coalition partners.
Yeah.
So a couple of things here. One, then we've got to look at the leadership of the National Party, just how strong he is or is not in ensuring that those gains under a previous national government were maintained, and they've been stripped away, clawed away from, and you can see that from the moment that they signed their coalition partnership agreement. I mean, all that stripping away of treaty principles, the names, the from the bills that was a result of the New Zealand First National Coalition, because Shane Jones and Winston Peters, they've got a really big issue with the Waitangi Tribunal, and anything to do with the Treaty of Waitangi and its principles, they have a big issue with that. The rest of the other issues in terms of the Māori Health Authority, Winston Peters was firmly against that. He Puapua, he was firmly against that as well too. However, those gains were made, and it just goes to show how not strong the current national leader is in ensuring that they were maintained under his watch. So it actually does highlight the leadership and the lack of this current national leader.
And even though that list sounds, when I say impressive, I mean in length, not in content. I'm sure I'm missing many things that are maybe more minor and haven't quite grabbed the headlines that would be there as well. But Claudette, look, that's not the real reason we've got you here, but it was very generous with your time. So thank you for jumping in on that. We'd like to have a look at what's going on with Te Pāti Māori at the moment and what's happening, what we're seeing from the outside looking in. And I thought the best way we could do this is to maybe hear from Te Pāti Māori themselves. And Rawiri and Debbie were on. We're seeing from hang on a sec. I've got something on. There it is. Apologies. And where the best way to start is to maybe hear from them themselves. Te Pāti Māori leaders spoke out for the first time, and I think we were just looking before we came on, Claudette. I think Eru Kapakingi sort of launched the grenade into this conversation somewhere in the first half of October, which means we've been talking about this, or it's been in the atmosphere for between 3 and 4 weeks perhaps, and this is the first time that these guys have officially spoken out. So let's just hear, I'm going to play like 3 short clips, not going to play the whole story, but this is Debbie and Rawiri first talking about what's going on in Te Pāti Māori and what the public are seeing.
It is now time for people to have the whole picture.
After weeks of infighting within the party, initiated last month when the son of Māori Meno Kapakingi publicly accused the leadership of behaving like a dictatorship.
There's no dictatorship, there's no bully, there's no toxicity here. Well, we still haven't been able to establish what the issues are.
What is clear is that the party's deeply divided, with new allegations emerging that the now suspended Māori Meno and Te Tai Tonga's Tākuta Ferris were seeking support to roll the leaders, a claim Māori Meno has refuted.
If the question is, was there a coup to roll the leadership? I would say absolutely yes. You know, I'm not going to dilly-dally around the facts.
If there was a coup or a challenge, it has failed. We are here.
Ferris has since publicly backed calls by his electorate committee for a vote of no confidence in the party's president, John Tamihere, and the national executive, which includes the co-leaders.
I didn't like JT either when I started. I'm just going to say that straight up. I say that to his face. But what I do like is the mastermind and the brilliance that he has to be able to strategically position and drive this party.
When I say rogue MPs, that's absolutely what they are. And they have operated against and breached the Constitution.
So Rawiri mentioned rogue MPs there. John Tamihere talked to that, and he thinks that they should resign. This is just 10 seconds on that.
From the party.
You should do the honourable thing, understand that, and go and do a honi harawira.
Which is, he left the party, set up his own party.
Yeah.
And finally, we'll play one more clip from the story, which is back to Debbie and Rawiri talking about wanting peace, but also this focuses a bit on the iwi leaders and what the iwi leaders want. And it's really interesting that the word ideally gets used in this little clip. The iwi leader says ideally it'll be one party, but I guess from the outside looking in, that means acknowledgement that maybe there will be a more official split, like it could happen. I just thought the word ideally will stick together as one party. It's an interesting perspective to be putting out to the public today. So let's have a listen to this last 40 seconds.
Absolutely, we want to have peace. But the reality is there has to be a time limit.
Iwi leaders are growing impatient too, arriving at Parliament to meet with the party and try to keep them from booting anyone out.
Ideally, we would have a single party, Māori party. But if it goes down that way, we'll be trying to keep them together.
And they're clear on what must happen in order to get there.
A ceasefire, a truce, throwing barbs across social media, that needs to stop. The second one is to pull together a hui here in Pōneke, on the marae, under tikanga Māori.
Extending their support to bring the party's crisis to an end.
So there you go. They're the clips we're going to play for tonight off that story. Claudette, I mean, if you're okay with it, I wouldn't mind just passing you the ball and you helping us understand what we're seeing, anything that you know that you're able to talk about, but also to do specifically with, you know, we're not Māori, I'm not Māori, Chewie's not Māori, what non-Māori might be missing in this whole conversation, if anything.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to be the māngai of all Te Ao Māori. That's big pressure. Thanks very much for that, voice.
No dramas, no dramas.
No pressure. Can I just say this, though? I've written an article on waateanews.com and on my Facebook page, and it's about other parties that have also experienced leadership issues. So this is not new, right? Every single party has and will continue to have issues around leadership. It's just the way of life if you are a political party and a member of a political party. So to think that this is suddenly a new phenomenon, get a life, it's not new. I guess the issue, though, is that we just had a magnificent hui last year before Kingi Tuheitia passed away, where he talked about kotahitanga. Yeah. And that was picked up by Toi Tū Te Tiriti around kotahitanga and Te Pāti Māori, where we talk about one moving forward. And this flies in the face of kotahitanga, this split. But again, it's not new. It just goes to show that Māori are like anyone else. They have teething problems around their parents and, you know, their whānau. They got whānau issues, and it's playing out in public, like all other parties do, okay? So there's that. Now, so when you've got rogue MPs, what Rawiri is saying that they've got rogue MPs there. I guess the rogue MPs, for want of a better word, Whaia Maria Mino and our brother Tākuta, they've got issues, ideological issues. They've got values that they don't see are quite in line with the other members of the caucus and perhaps the wider Te Pāti Māori. And so they obviously feel that they have not been given an opportunity to voice those, although there are processes within all parties and Te Pāti Māori where they can be aired. And given that they are caucus members, they would have an opportunity to air that. So, you know, they've obviously decided that they didn't get that opportunity, and so they have distanced themselves. I'm talking about Maria Mino and Tākuta. One of the things that we have to remember, though, is that Debbie Ngāre Wapaka and Rawiri Waititi, they were the ones, particularly Rawiri Waititi, won his seat in 2017 that got Debbie Ngāre Wapaka in as a list MP. And so everything hinged on that one seat. So by rights, as the tuakana, he needs to be that leader, that co-leader, and she needs to be the co-leader as well because she came in off the list. So regardless of whether you see this as in terms of Te Ao Māori or not, but in Te Ao Māori, they are the tuakana of that party because they came in first. And if you want to have your tuakana step down and you want your taina to take over, your younger members of the caucus to take over, then they're going to have to go through that whānau process. And that doesn't seem to have happened here. But, you know, to overthrow your tuakana without that without that tikanga process, which is a political process. Yeah, I think that's a bit questionable there. The other thing too I want to raise, and that's about Toitū Te Tiriti. Erukapa Kingi had rightly said that he would distance himself and Toitū Te Tiriti to become the activist group that it is. And that is what they are. Now, interestingly, that the Prime Minister, he said in his stand-up, post-cab stand-up yesterday, that Te Pāti Māori currently is nothing but an activist party. Yeah, that is exactly what they are. That is why they are there. That is why they are so popular, because they are activists. They're not just some opposition party that goes in and opposes. They activate the people on the outside. That is exactly what they are doing. So in Iokune Whakaaro, having Toitū, or the activist group that supports Te Pāti Māori, or the Māori caucus of Labour or the Green Party, have them as an activist party outside of those entrenched parties, fabulous. That is where they should be. And then coming back to the dissension amongst the caucus members, that is something that they will have to take care of themselves within their party structure, constitutional-wise. They've got a constitution, and it's based on tikanga, and nobody can say that it isn't, because it is, and they're the only ones that can change that tikanga, that kawa for themselves. Now, having the iwi leaders forum step in, oh my God, that's like having, the big guns come in and, try and mediate amongst this already really high profile, very onto it rōpū. So you've got these two big groups coming together. And if I was Labour, I'd be really scared about that, because you've got an iwi leaders group of over 100 Māori leaders wanting peace amongst Te Pāti Māori. You'd never see them come in and step in on a Māori caucus for Labour. You'd never see them dare to even want to negotiate some kind of a deal with the Māori members of the Green Party. So if I was all these other parties, I'd be really scared, really frightened that these iwi leaders are actually backing Te Pāti Māori to get their shit together, ready for 2026.
Do you think the iwi forum coming in is to back Te Pāti Māori, and I guess what I'm thinking is to back Deb and Rawiri, or is it more neutral to back the kaupapa of the whole party, therefore they've got to sort the whole thing out, not particularly siding with any one group?
Absolutely correct. The kaupapa is bigger than anybody else.
Yep.
And so they're there to champion the kaupapa. They're there because the kaupapa is a one-term government. Even though Christopher Luxon, even though he stood up yesterday and said that he talks to iwi leaders, but he's not going to name them, he's not going to name them. And, he does have a bit of a soft spot for Ngaitahu, and he went down to the Waitangi celebrations, commemorations this year to Kaitahu, and he got dealt to by Ngaitahu in their coho. So, we're not 100% sure which Māori leaders he's actually talking to, and he would be, but, they're not going to say, he's bigger than me, because we go around and we say, is he speaking to you? Oh, nobody really wants to stand up and say, oh, yeah, we had a hui, sit down, cup of tea with him. No, but again, yes, it's about the kaupapa. The kaupapa is bigger than everybody. And here's the rub, you see. So Debbie Ngāti Wapaka and Rawiri Waititi say that they have a kaupapa that they wish to promote. And so does Maria Mino and Tākuta. They are focused on a kaupapa. And so I guess the issue is here is whether or not the values and the strategy or the ideology behind that kaupapa, they can merge those and bring those back together. It's not the kaupapa, It is how to drive that kaupapa.
When you said Christopher Luxon talks to iwi leaders, I think maybe he was misquoted. Maybe they were supposed to say he talks down to iwi leaders. Maybe they left the word down out in there a little bit. Maybe I was just thinking. Hey, Chewie, you've been very quiet. You should jump in, sir.
Yeah, I guess my question is a little bit of a fast forward, and a more general question. If you take a swing at the leadership and rock the boat as much as this, do you see a pathway for these, for lack of a better term, I'll use the media's term, rogue MPs, to stick around after it? Do you think this is survivable for someone like Ferris?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So JT can say, step down, move away. But, in Te Ao Māori, there's always a way back. And so if there is a sit down at a marae and all the parties come together, absolutely, there is a way forward for all of them. It's not done until it's done. And even then, it's not really done. There's always a way back. I mean, we take Hone Harawira as an example. Although he set up mana, the relationship between him and Tariana and Peter became quite fraught. There was enough between them to still promote a kaupapa together, even though they were very separate. Now I'm not saying that, this is what's going to happen, but if those two want to return to the fold, then there is a pathway back. And if the caucus wish for them to return, they will create a pathway back for them.
I was thinking about this today and explained, I was interested in hearing talking about challenging the tuakana. It almost sounds like what you're saying is the way that it's being done, if they are challenging the tuakana, that it's kind of being done in a non-Māori way. I don't know. I'm hoping that's not an offensive thing to say, because the way you're explaining it is they're not doing it the right way as compared to tradition. Is that fair to say?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Good. Correct me.
I mean, like in any whānau situation, you're always going to have a bit of go at your siblings and your whānau members. And so when I say they're the tuakana, they arrive first. It's not an age thing. It is senior, they're senior because they arrived into Parliament first.
Yeah. I was having this conversation. I wonder how much of what we're seeing on the outside looking in could be this. So I was in a relationship once with a very quiet, very demure sort of lady, and I come from an Irish Catholic family, and sometimes she thought we were arguing and I thought we were just having a healthy conversation. So we were sort of both right, because she saw it as an argument and I just saw it as robust, fun conversation. Is there any chance that both of these sides are what they're seeing from their perspective accurately, and actually they just need to get around the table and sort out, oh no, that's not what I meant. Oh no, that's not what I meant. Oh no, that's not, you know what I mean? Could that be where we're looking for these guys?
There could be, I mean, absolutely. There is every chance that they can negotiate their way through this and come to some kind of compromise. I mean, it's not unachievable that they can do this. It's whether or not they have the willingness to do this. But the best way forward for them is to do it on a marae like Baden Barber, who is from Kahunganu, like he said, and for it to be mediated by our rangatira, and to have that, or hoho te rongo, it's called, hoho te rongo, and so to have that. And it's up to them to want to do that.
Do you think if it went down this path that there are the numbers to roll JT, Debbie and Rawiri at the moment?
No. The numbers are squarely on the side of JT and the leadership. That's because it's the party numbers and how it's structured. So those numbers are squarely in that camp. But interestingly, in that one news, Yvonne Tahana had actually been up north, and she went to Taitokoro to talk about, to find people that were in support of Māori Mino, and she did find people that were in support of Māori Mino. The issue, I guess, when we're talking about numbers, is if those people who are supportive are actually members of the party. I mean, it's like anything, you've got the numbers if they're signed up to be a member of your rōpū. So it's whether or not they've got those that membership number. But currently, the numbers squarely sit with the current leadership.
All right. Would love to ask you about the treaty obligations and school boards in a second. But before I ask you that question, Chewie, got anything else you want to wrap up on this current conversation? Any other questions or comments?
I just want to thank you for coming on the show and really sort of giving us an insight that we didn't have. I think you've just blazed a trail through all of the questions that I had about what's going on and the best way to resolve it. So thanks for coming on.
I just want to pick up a point that Willie Jackson had talked about today. He had said that one of the things about party president shouldn't be so visible. Well, when you've got a Māori, like, who knows the party president for Labour? Who knows who the party president is from, National, or the party president for the Green Party, right? But everyone knows the party president for Te Pāti Māori. Well, that's what you get when you're with a rōpū Māori, right? You get the whole leadership, kit and caboodle. So for those that feel that JT has too much oxygen, that is because that's how they roll. There is a leadership, and they've got, the mahanga, the upoko, and that's who they are. So for those that don't understand how Māori leadership works, that's how it goes. You have the party president who is up front and out the front, along with the party the caucus leaders. Absolutely.
There is, of course, one exception to that rule, and that's a particular former president of the ACT Party. We all know his name quite well, who's been in the news quite a lot recently, Mr. Yago. Just make sure that's part of the ACT Party. Hey, look, thank you so much for coming.
Before I step away from Willie Jackson, he was very clear during the caucus run today that he is hoping for a by-election, and he will, if there is a by-election in Te Taitokoro, that they will stand Willow Jean Prime as the candidate for Te Taitokoro.
What's Willie up to? I mean, like, he's good mates with JT. They go a long way back. It's a strange thing. I was going to say, it's a bit weird hearing it.
That was asked of him as well, too. How far back? But politics is politics. So, that might be his mate. But that's also a party that took their seats. So, there's no love lost there. He wants his seats back, and mate or no mate, he's going to get those seats back. And he says that if there is a by-election, that's who they're going to stand, Willow Jean Prime. The Green Party will have Huhana Linden, and wow, that is one dynamic wahine. So it'll be a real fight.
And also, just to wrap this part of the conversation up, not that we'll go for much longer, but just this part is like, from, again, sitting where we're sitting looking at it, feels like Toitu Te Tiriti is really important. Feels like Te Pāti Māori is really important. And in the long run, I hope neither of them damage the other one. Or even when, let's say, best case scenario, MPs work through their issues and all move forward together, that Toitu can then, through ERA in particular, then kind of also move forward. Because, you do get the sense, and you understand why that someone's been a bit mean to my mum. And you can understand why those feelings can be there. But in their own world, in their own areas, that they all continue to move forward in their own boats, fighting the good fight.
Toitu Te Tiriti. Ai, koina. Can I also say this about Eru Kapakingi very, very quickly? Boy, he can mobilise that rangatahi lot. Just one text and out they come. So he is the modern face of that generation of Māori who are social media savvy. And when he mobilises that group, it's all over social media, and he's the bloke. He's the voice.
No. And we've seen that with the Hikoi. I mean, that's exactly what we saw. with that hikoi. Hey, just before you go, we won't play any more audio or video. We'll just like to get your initial thoughts, if you're okay with it, on the announcement today that the government, it seems like they're basically saying in the news that Erica slipped into a bill last minute about the removing treaty obligations for boards of trustees in schools. I said to you before we came on, it feels like it's come out of nowhere. You're saying, no, this is a part of their plan. But what do you think of the actual idea to implement this now that we're here?
And of course, the Board of Trustees have all come out and said that the government is overstepping the mark. I mean, this is something that the Associate Minister, David Seymour, had wanted, and he said things like too many schools are spending too much time on a marae and doing a karakia. That's actually not what it's about. He says that the schools need to go back to the basics of learning and getting kids in the classroom. Well, for tamariki Māori and for Tiriti, tangata Tiriti, tamariki, the basic is Te Tiriti or Waitangi. That is that is the bedrock of all learning for tamariki Māori. I mean, this week we've had the primary school's kapahaka performance. There is nothing that is more outstanding than seeing the faces of these children and they're singing in te reo, but it's the knowledge that they have, the understanding that they have on what they're singing about and why they're singing this. And that is because their kura embeds Te Tiriti or Waitangi. And for a lot of other schools who are, we call them kura auraki, those mainstream schools, they want that for their kura. Now, Erica Stanford has said that there's a lot of learnings from kura kaupapa Māori that should be embedded in mainstream schools. Well, those kura schools, everything comes as a result of Te Tiriti or Waitangi. And that's what these boards of trustees, school boards, are those that are opposing this legislation, the stripping away of Te Tiriti. That's what they want for their kura as well. No, it's not about, going to visit maraes every morning or doing your karakia every morning. For some schools it is, actually. For some schools it isn't. It's about manaakitanga. It's about valuing your environment. It's about knowing which rākau you're looking at when you look out your window. These are the types of things that come from understanding Te Tiriti or Waitangi. So there's a deliberate lack of understanding by some of our senior ministers, i.e. David Seymour, around why these kura want Te Tiriti in their legislation.
I mean, I tweeted this out today. The treaty Te Tiriti is basically as close to a founding document as we've got. Could you imagine in America if Republic politicians came out and said, you need to remove all obligations to the Constitution from your school boards? Like that seems like it feels like it's, and I'm not saying the Constitution is exactly the same as Te Tiriti, but as a founding document, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. I just don't get it at all.
So the Hobson's Pledge had also lobbied the minister to have this taken away. They supported the coalition agreement to have Treaty Principles Bill removed from all legislation. And this particular legislation was supported by the Hobson's Pledge. And the Minister Stanford, didn't deny that Hobson's Pledge was involved in this. So in terms of lobbying. So what we're seeing now is that far right lobby group having, very visible and tangible play on our policy. And so, that should be a concern for all New Zealanders, that we've got very far right groups or very conservative groups that are actually dictating what every New Zealander should or should not have.
And the scary thing about that is that's true, but then there's pretty credible evidence as well that far right group is also then being funded by another far right group from offshore. So it's actually an offshore far right group who is feeding that far right group who is then impacting how we're living in New Zealand. So yeah, it's pretty terrifying. pretty
The other thing too, the second reading of the Regulatory Standards Bill was passed this afternoon, and in that, David Seymour says that it's to dismantle all the bureaucracy. But actually, when he takes away legislation like Te Tiriti, just as an example, that is a meddling in regulatory standards. I mean, they're meddling in regulatory frameworks that assist the democratic process of everyday New Zealanders. So there's a contradiction there as well, that they are meddling in what they say that they're trying to achieve.
Hey, Claudette, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much for giving us some time. We would love to have you back anytime you want to come. Anytime you've got something to say, we'll have you back anytime. It'll be fantastic. But we really appreciate you bringing the perspective that we don't know about and kind of can't know about, or we can learn about, and we're learning a bit today from people like yourself. So thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight.
Toi tui te tiriti. Ngā mihi.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Claudette. Claudette Hauiti from WaateaNews.com, the political, what do you call it? The press journalist, press gallery correspondent from Waatea. Yeah, okay, go Chewie. Wow, your thoughts?
What an absolute fire hose of perspective. That was amazing. I really do appreciate it. It has crystallized some thoughts that I've had sort of going around about this whole shit show, and how various media outlets are covering it like it's a normal political party spill, and it's not. It's not, because of the tikanga around it, and the avenues of resolution that they have is different from a more traditional New Zealand political party. So hopefully, I have no reason to doubt this, that they're going to stick to those principles, and get it out of their system and get everybody back on mission. I personally think this has come about because, as Luxon has said, they're an activist party. He thinks that that's a slur. It's not. Why would you not want an activist party? Activists want things to change, want things to move. That is a good thing. But the other thing about activists is that they tend to be incredibly passionate about the work that they're doing. Yeah. And they're all passionate about the same thing, but they're also really passionate about how they're going to do it. And when you are that passionate about something, you are going to butt heads with someone that is just as passionate about their idea of how to do it. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yes, indeed. Someone said in the text, and I think it's probably mostly correct. There might be, you can possibly argue a few of them, but most political parties, I'll say, start from a point of activism. I mean, where did the Labour Party start? So it's actually, and because this is the youngest political party, they're going to be closest to their activist roots, and they still are. And there was something else that someone came back to me over the last couple of days, that I made a comment maybe on yesterday's show about the youngsters being more activists than, for example, Debbie. And I wasn't meaning it like that. I was meaning that Debbie definitely has that activist blood running through her. You can tell, and you can hear it in her voice. Maybe what I was trying to say was some of those younger ones are a bit rawer, R-A-W, not R-O-A-R, but rawer in their way of expressing it. So if anyone took me as having a slight on Debbie, that's not. And let me just tell you something. And I keep my powder dry, but I've messaged Debbie today, and I said, much like with Claudette, we don't know what we're talking about. We're getting things messed up, and we don't want to make massive errors based on our clumsy assumptions. Do you want to come on? And in a response, she's actually going to talk to Rawiri and come back to us. So, I want to go to the source if we can, or if not the source, I want to go to people who understand the source, which is what we've done tonight. So, huge thanks to Claudette for coming on again. That was amazing. Citizen Gold wants to remind us it's only 410 days at most. I can last that long, right? Yeah, but remember, there's a little caveat. If they win, well, you got to add another 1,000 days on top. Mm-hmm.
Oh, why would you verbalise that? Well, why would you say that out loud with your mouth?
because we're activating people. We're activating them to go. Rajan, JT's crash out almost became a literal one. Yeah, we will play that actually. We'll hear from JT before we wrap up for the show. He spoke for about 4 minutes to Byron. We'll just play the whole thing and have a look what he had to say. It's really weird because he's in the car driving and then it gets to a point obviously where it's too dark and you can't actually see him. So it crosses back to him and it's basically just a black screen. And as a PSA, do not drive and podcast at all. Although, as I said, it'll be the headline tomorrow. But in theory, as long as your phone's sitting on a solid, the law is it has to be on a solid, holder. There's nothing illegal about what he did. Silly might be another question, but nothing illegal. I just want to do this again because this is important, yeah? I just want to read this list again that I started on today. Māori Health Authority, Māori Wards Legislation, Treaty Principles Bill, Regulatory Standards Bill, giving priority to English in government departments, the Marine and Coastal Area Bill, road signs, removing Te Tiriti obligations from schools, which we'll play a story on next. Oh, sheesh, what have I done? Oh, gosh, Chewie.
That's
I had a
awkward,
list.
'cause I just have to sit here like this.
Did I just accidentally close it? Oh, there it is. Phew, I thought I'd lost it. I'm using Notepad. Don't ever use Notepad for this kind of thing. What was I up to? Did I say road signs? I know, obligations from schools. Now, there was a thing about people who were fluent in Te Reo got a bonus for working at university. And I looked it up. I thought that had been cancelled. I think it hasn't been cancelled, but they're stopping future employment from being able to access that. So it's basically cancelling that bonus for people coming through from the future. Ending co-governance, halting he puapua, the repeal of Section 7AA of Oranga Tamariki Act, stopping smoke-free 2025, start using your feet, cutting funding for Matariki, cutting funding for the Māori housing program, and there will be more. I've just started because remember what we've said about governments, right? Governments, the way governments run budgets is through choices. That's it. Let's not get into the debate if we can afford it, we can't afford it, we can do this. It's just about choices. So I would like to speak to the Prime Minister and just one by one go, why did you pick cutting the Māori Health Authority over landlords? Why did you pick the Treaty Principles Bill over, what is those, hot, wet cigarettes, whatever those things are called? That's a new name for them.
No, that's great. That's how they should
hot,
always
wet cigarettes?
be.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the new thing. We've done a tax cut for hot, wet cigarettes.
That's the one. Why did you choose the Regulatory Standards Bill? Why did you choose road signs? Why did you choose the Marine and Coastal Area Bill? Why did you choose to prioritise English in government departments? Why did you choose removing Te Tiriti obligations from school? And so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. Because I know what conclusion I come to. But we'll see. All right. Hot, wet cigarettes. Is that what we're calling it now? Is that the new?
Oh, I love it. Can you imagine buying that and just peeling the first one out of it's all floppy and you're just like, why is it body temperature? Yuck.
Okay. Now let's get to this. We've just heard Claudette kind of chatting about this. So we don't really need to say anything. We'll just play it and then we'll leave. No, I'm just kidding. So we hear today, and it did come out like as a breaking news story today. Like no one knew it coming, no one foresaw it. Apparently, it was part of the New Zealand First, what they wanted, but no one knew it was going to pop its ugly little head up today. It just popped out, and Erica Stanford went, oh, yep, we're going to do this. We're going to remove all obligations to Te Tiriti for school boards in New Zealand. Now, you would hope in most instances, in all instances, that it won't make any difference. But what it does mean is if you get you now have the ability for people to get control of the school board and push and further ideologies that are not New Zealand based, that are don't have the kaupapa of who we are and where we all come from. Because even if you're not Māori, if you're part of this land, part of this country, then Māoridom is a part of your story, right? So this is what it does. Oh, yeah, they can. It's a bit like smoke-free. Oh, no, we're still going to try and drive the number of smokers down. Yeah, but you just cancelled the thing that sort of guaranteed it. Oh, they can still keep teaching everything they want to do with, Te Reo and Treaty. Yeah, but you've just cancelled the thing that made them do it, that made it law. This whole bicultural agreement we have in a multicultural country and having to honour that agreement, that whole part of things. Anyhow, let's hear the soon-to-be retired Silver Fox telling us about this story.
In other news, school principals are accusing the Education Minister of caving in to extremists. It comes after her move to take away Te Tiriti or Waitangi responsibilities from school boards. Erica Stanford introduced a last-minute change to the Education Amendment Bill currently before Parliament. Demelza Leslie reports.
The government says the treaty is the Crown's responsibility, not schools.
We want boards laser focused. Get your kids to school, make sure that they're learning well, make sure that they're safe.
But school boards say they are Crown entities.
I think it's just disappointing that it's being removed.
It's pretty moronic, eh? It's the Crown's responsibility to teach and further Te Tiriti. Yeah, we're the Crown. You know how we're striking at the moment? Those public servants, the teachers, the Crown. And we are the place that we are charged with educating people. So we are a Crown entity that educates. And you've just said it's the Crown's job to educate people about Te Tiriti and the obligations to it. But you're potentially stopping the Crown entity charged with educating from doing that education. I see what you did there. I see.
Moved because it's really hard to see why. Many boards have really...
She should just go, it's a dick move. Because really, isn't that the answer? It's a dick move. What's happening?
Because it's really hard to see why. Many boards have really enjoyed the journey of learning about Te Tiriti and how we can implement it.
What I think the Minister doesn't quite understand is that this is a cultural way of doing things. They are focused on achievement. They are focused on attendance. This doesn't have to be one or the other.
School boards make the big decisions and set the overall direction of a school. Under the current law, they have 4 key objectives: achievement, safety, catering for differing needs, and giving effect to Te Tiriti, leading schools to adjust their vision and values and build stronger relationships with iwi and hapu.
It's the place that our tamariki, our mokopuna come into. It is the place that educates our society.
But the government thinks it's gone too far.
Now, I'm getting ahead of him. We're hearing from lots of parents. Lots of parents think, this is what he's about to say.
Anecdotes.
We're hearing from lots of parents, or there are many parents. We'll get the exact word. And then just remember, 1,000 parents is lots of parents. It doesn't really collate, though, when you're looking at 5.5 million people population. So I think the way he describes the people who don't want this is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Have a listen.
It's gone too far.
I think it's fair to say that there's enough parents out there who are tired of...
There's enough parents who are tired about this. There's enough. What is that? What's enough? 7? 70? 700? 7,000? How many is enough to get you to change this legislation to rip obligations to Te Tiriti away from schools, giving some schools the availability to get rid of it if they want? And remember, this government will then wash its hands. It's like Māori wards. Oh no, we just, it was they voted for it. It's nothing to do with us. We just made the opportunity there for them to vote. They voted for it, and it's the same. Well, we're not saying schools don't have to do it, but we're just making it available to those ones that don't want to do what is obligated to them under Te Tiriti at the moment. Oh, but we didn't force anyone to change. It's democratic, and they chose to change. Right.
Parents out there who are tired of feeling like their kid's school has become an eternal marae visit.
Principals say students want to connect with the language.
I have to say, I've had kids that have gone through primary schools, 3 of them in the last sort of 10 years or so. I suspect maybe they visit a marae once a year.
No, it's constant. It's constant. The childless man says that it's constant. He couldn't possibly be lying. It must be true. Maybe there's some sort of official Information Act request that could be made about who he's talking to and what school is doing a constant, endless visit to a marae.
Very good.
to connect with the language and culture.
These are extremists who have obviously got the ear of the minister. The announcement this morning, she mentioned the Hobson Pledge. And, that really concerns me, that worries me, that their views are now becoming government policy.
The Education Minister says she's not interested in politics when it comes to education.
I don't listen to what the Principals Federation have to say. They've long railed against everything that I've done.
I don't listen to what the Principals Federation has to say. They've long railed against everything I've had to say. So the educational experts disagree with me, so I am not going to listen to them. I'm going to wipe them off the floor. They're going to go. They're out of my view. I'm not going to listen to them because they say what I do is dumb. The educational experts, the people who are charged, the government entity that is charged with teaching our children are telling you what you're doing is wrong, and your response is, oh, maybe these experts know something I don't. Your response is, I'm not going to talk to them anymore. La 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 la.
Enormously on brand. Nobody wants to talk to the unions. Nobody wants to talk to researchers. No one wants to talk to anybody who knows anything about the area that these people are supposedly the minister for. Yeah. This is insane.
And as an aside, I have emailed Erica Stanford's office tonight saying, requesting an interview for tomorrow. We'll see how that doesn't pan out.
I listen to what the Principals Federation have to say. They've long railed against everything that I've done.
Labor calling the changes an overreach.
This government seems to be allergic for anything Māori. This will have a detrimental impact for not only our tauira Māori, but all students.
The government says school boards will still have the choice to teach as much tikanga and te reo Māori as they like. The difference being they won't be forced to do it. Demelza Leslie, One News.
Well, they'll have the choice to keep the Māori words if they want, but you're providing the framework for Māori wards to go. You're providing the framework for obligations to Te Tiriti to go. So you're opening the door and you're going, well, if some of them walk through, that's up to them, but you've unlocked and opened the door. You have responsibility. Sorry, Chewie.
It's all about chipping away at the work that has been done over the previous decades. Like, if these guys want to stare down the barrel of the camera and at any point talk about division in our society, and racial issues in our society, and it all comes back to the treaty and that sort of thing, start with the generation that's at school.
Yeah.
And have them learn about the country that they live in and the cultures that they will interact with. Like, it just baffles me that they want to wash all of that away. One of the most amazing things that I remember seeing here in Dunedin a few years back was seeing one of the local schools have a group of kids singing Christmas carols or some sort of performance in the mall and that sort of thing. But they were bouncing around between different languages, te reo, English, there was a couple of other foreign languages and that sort of thing. But they were all,
not foreign.
Like all these kids.
Foreign?
The overseas ones. I didn't understand what they were. But that class, that group of children, were all learning from each other.
Yeah.
What a horrible, nightmarish vision for the future. I bet when David Seymour just felt that something was up when they were practicing, woke up in a cold, slimy little sweat. Other cultures learning from each other? Not on my watch.
There's the disturbance in my force. I don't know what's happening. No.
I found some school books from Victorian England, and we're all going to learn from this because the European way is the superior way. This shit just annoys me because these guys are operating a vision of the future of this country that I fundamentally reject.
You know what's difficult to think about, and this is a bit depressing, and I'm sorry. Let's put some faith in the left of politics to fix all of this. how bloody long is that going to take? Do I need to read that list again? I mean, could they even fix all the stuff that these guys have torn down? These guys have basically IDF bombed anything to do with Māori within the system. So it's all a rubble on the ground at the moment and needs to first be cleaned up before it's even rebuilt. You know, how long will it take those 12 or 13 or 14 things I read out? How many times will a left-leaning pro-government have to get in to actually rebuild those foundations into something what they were 2 years ago? Shocking.
Well, I mean, there's a danger in that, right? Because, like, what I want is the government to come in and go, hey, remember that time the country had a fucking gas leak? And we had 3 years of just absolute misery. So we're just going to wipe out all of it in a wave, a hard-charging wave of under-urgency, because that's how it arrived, and we're going to get rid of it. And we run the risk of ending up having a government that is just wildly yo-yoing from one end to the other as everybody wipes out the work that the previous government has done under urgency. And I think there's a real danger to that. And what has got us here is an incredible, like, the right love to criticise people like the Greens and Labour and Te Pāti Māori for being ideologically driven, right? Because nobody has ideology, but they'll criticize that, and then when they get given the wheel, do some incredibly ideologically driven stuff from think tanks and the New Zealand Institute and Atlas and Hobson's Pledge and all of these other guys that had their wicked little axes to grind about something. And this is a government that we've seen where they've just ridden roughshod over everything that's come before it and go, you know, slow and steady, and let's not just do some crazy dramatic changes. This government has thrown that out the window. And so, yeah, the question is, how do the next lot fix it without setting a precedent that, to be honest, is bad for everyone?
Look, we're going to move on now. Just a couple of super chats. First of all, Mr. Arvid says, a law is an incentive to do or not do something. Pregnancy warning labels on alcohol, which is morally correct. Keeping Te Tiriti is morally correct. Peter says, geez, remember when Stanford was seen as a future of the National Party? What a fall from grace. Yes, I don't know if I think that she's going to be the next leader now. I think probably at the moment the odds are on Chris Bishop, to be perfectly honest. I think, remember, we thought about Nicola Willis pre-election. That's gone. Erica Stanford, that's gone. I think probably if it was held today, it would be Chris Bishop, would be my guess today.
There's no talent. Like, if it has to be Christopher Bishop, it'd be like being governed by a steak and cheese pie from a petrol station. Like, he's the human embodiment of a tradie's breakfast. Like, there's nothing good there.
I'm going to do two other things now. We're going to do a question that's off topic, and then I'm going to play something for you that's off topic, but it's a nice little reminder. What do you think about Winston Peters submitting a private member's bill on banning the sale of fireworks, which a lot of pet owners have been advocating and which the Greens support? What are your thoughts?
Yep, 100% agree. Look, here in Dunedin last night, we had an incident where students on Castle Street shot fireworks at people. Police and fire turned up to fucking sort it out, and they ended up having fireworks shot at them. I think the enjoyment of a few people over of fireworks is at a detriment to a huge amount of people around it that are just having to accept it. And every year there is issues with pets, with fire. It is commemorating something that has nothing to do with New Zealand. And we have people hoard fireworks in their house. Like, there are people setting up fireworks all year around at some of the dumbest times in the world. Like, I judge people quite harshly when I just hear fireworks kick off at 8 o'clock on a summer's evening.
I don't really care. My
it's
response.
dumb.
I'm sorry to be ambivalent. I don't really care. I mean, like that person you're talking about firing fireworks. I mean, I don't know. I was going to say we all did that as teenagers. Maybe we didn't, but yeah. I mean, I neither really care whether they do or don't. I get all the pros, and I get turning into major public events rather than backyard things. It doesn't impact us so much anymore. Pets, we keep the pets inside most of the time. I don't know. I'm not strongly yay or nay. I could be convinced. If I had to vote, would I ban them? If I had to vote, I'd probably lean towards yes to banning them than no not to. But for me, anyway.
Like your shitty $50 bag of fireworks that you got for the warehouse, like why bother? Honestly, like if we're going to have fireworks, let's have it at a time of year where fireworks is actually fucking worthwhile when it's dark.
Yeah.
And have them as public displays that actually look good if we're going to go down that track. But yeah, I think this is Winston being populist Winston. It's just this time I fucking agree with him. And
Fireworks on Matariki. That's when we should have fireworks. Matariki.
Yeah.
Dark early, middle of winter. And that's the same as many of these things like Halloween. In America, it's dark at 6 p.m. on Halloween because it's winter, or it's certainly at least autumn, and they're able to do those sorts of things. Yeah.
I would love for Guy Fawkes to be out of our conversation because it stomps on something else that is New Zealand history. We celebrate something that happened in England hundreds and hundreds of years ago with explosives instead of talking about Pāti haka.
But technically, we celebrated something that didn't happen in England all those years ago because it was a failed plot. So, all right, listen, I want to play one other little piece of video. I've had this sitting here for a few weeks, and I thought that we should bring it out because what we're talking about today, it makes sense. Remember, we've had conversations around speaking the indigenous language of your country, and we spoke to the Welsh Language Commission and did a bit of research, and we found out pretty well that in the colonised countries where the indigenous language is, for want of a better word, brown, there are many politicians and political parties set up to push that language away and to diminish it. In colonised countries where the indigenous language is, for want of a better word, white, so the indigenous people are, like in Ireland, it's in a very different way. Like we found out in the Welsh conversation that legislation says that Welsh language must come first in road signs. Complete opposite of that. In New Zealand, this government, they shouldn't be on road signs, must come first. And there was a clip that came out a few weeks ago by the independent president candidate Catherine Connolly from Ireland, how very important it should be that the president of Ireland speak Irish. And it's quite a cool little clip, and I thought it's only under a minute that you might enjoy it, especially listening to that lovely
brogue. First of all, I have never criticised someone for not using the Irish language. I myself learned it. I went back after school, and it was an absolute privilege to be able to do that in Galway and go back and learn it. Indeed, I'm still learning, and I think what I learned the most is to be able to recognise the mistakes but not to prevent them. So I understand the learning of Irish on every level. But this is about the role of the President of Ireland and the importance given to it in the Constitution, the Irish language. And so it is very important that the President would be able to use the language. But I'm not using that. I'm just explaining, just in relation to the Irish language. We have come so far in Ireland on one level. We have finally got Achna Changa Efagula that gives rights to people that haven't been implemented.
There you go. That was all. It was a little clip, and I'm like, it's nice to hear a politician, a potential president of a country going, maybe this indigenous language is something that the person running this country should be au fait with. Kind of the reverse of what we've got in New Zealand.
I tell you what, for those who haven't watched it, the Kneecap movie.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Is well worth it. Like, I don't follow their music particularly closely. But the messages about the importance of having your own culture and language, I drew so many parallels, just very clear parallels to here. because the Irish were colonised as well by the British. They had their culture and their language taken away, and they are having a modern resurgence. But my jaw was on the floor when they spoke that there was only protections given to the Irish language. I think it's in 2007, and I want to use that to put perspective at what has been done here around Te Reo, of like how far ahead, how hard Māori have had to fight for that, and how far down the road we have moved this needle. I know we're talking about a lot about this government trying to erase Māori and considerations for the treaty, but we're going to win. This is an aberration. Māori aren't giving up, and neither should we.
Someone's watching me because they want to go upstairs, and I haven't given them permission yet. You see the stare down I'm getting? You watch this. You watching? I'll just say 3 little words. Ready? You can go.
Gone.
Gone. Heard noises. People upstairs. Just to move out of this thing, Kaimātara has the joke of the week. What happens when a wahine toa does mahi? Fireworks. Sounds like a t-shirt.
Oh, that's very good.
Could do that, fireworks, and then do on a t-shirt.
Hey,
very good.
Just a little bit of a tangent. When do we find out whether Mamdani has won in New York?
I think it's in a
tomorrow.
Oh, is it that soon? Is it? NY is going for the mayor, MAYO.
Because
dates.
I saw some talk just before we went to air that his
4th of November.
Is at this point pretty much unassailable.
Let me have a look, shall I?
I mean, the discussions are getting real frothy about, will other countries, other movements recognise the right things out of Mamdani's campaign? And that some European lefties have reached out to Mamdani's team to sort of go, well, what can we learn from you guys? Here's what you can learn. Stand an authentic candidate who's not going to let the establishment say that you can't say that, it's too radical. I mean, maybe I'm saying it's too early because he hasn't won yet, but
when you say the lead's unassailable, is that the right word? I can't see any results anywhere. All the websites are saying nothing counted, nothing done. There's a couple there as well. Live results from New York.
Maybe they're going
live
from surveys or something.
From New York City. It's Zoran Mamdani. The biggest thing about this, I think, is going to be you'll get the split in the left in America that will go, can you not see what happens when we run a progressive candidate who actually wants to give answers to things like, can you not see what happens? Versus the establishment that goes, oh, you can't go down the path of socialism, all on the left. And it's so very obvious that there is a populist message at the moment around the world on the left to do with that. And the Greens are going to ride a bit of the wave in the next 12 months. They'll be bigger at the next election, one would think. And Zoran is proving a model in America that if the Democrats chose to follow, then they could see success. We'll see, though. All right. Hey, let's get to this last one. And I'm sorry to show you this because how do you know what's going on here? Who knows? It's just like a dark screen. So John Tamihere is driving his car. Well, it appears he's driving it, so he may not be. I'm thinking pretty sure he is, but he may not be. And he's talking to Bomber's podcast. And I thought, well, we've been talking a bit about Te Pāti Māori. We've been talking about what's going on, what we can read, what do we know. And so I thought it might just be worth playing the 4 minutes here of John Tamihere, who is actually explaining from his perspective what's going on. Cool? All right, let's have a look.
Look, there's what you try and do in all political parties is when you have major issues inside the party, you try for the benefit of those that are members of the party, those that support the party and vote for the party, you try and ensure that there's a veneer of unity, kōteitanga and all that.
Yeah.
Become very exhausting with these two. The problem you have is that people that...
It is interesting when we hear Claudette talking about, coming together, meeting and moving forward, that John we have a problem with these two. Now, is that okay because it's clear and it's accurate, or is it just, is this now not behind the, you know what I mean? It's like he's not quelling the fire, but then maybe the fire's got to burn bright to get to the end of it. I'm not sure, but yeah. And I think actually Simon Wilson is there, and he does ask him directly how much of this is your fault, and you'd be surprised, but JT doesn't react so well to that question.
In discipline, in regard to teamwork and believing that they're above the party and above the movement, they always consider that they can run their own fiefdom.
Yes.
Without caucus structure, without caucus rules, without caucus discipline. And Mr. Ferris is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
But so are the Kapakini. So anyway, it's come to a position where we can't go into 2026.
Yes.
Unless we are unified and of one mind and
exactly.
one voice.
Exactly.
That will occur. That will occur, and I can assure you, it will be a force.
Simon Wilson wants to ask you a quick question. Go on. Yeah, Simon. Go
JT, Simon here. You used the phrase veneer of unity, which I think probably most people in politics would say is critical, to have the sense, to give the population, the voters, the sense that your party is unified. Yeah. It is true that Mr. Ferris, Takata Ferris and the Kapakingis have complained about things, but I would have thought the person who had, or the people who had put the real disunity into the public and horrified everybody were yourself and Rawiri Waititi.
Yeah, but you'd say that, wouldn't you, Simon?
Well,
you're like your mate over there from the Herald. No, but you're like your mate from
I got to say, it's not often that people say Fran and I think the same. So.
No. You're right for the same rag. You're right for the same rags.
Well, instead of it being our fault, my question: if you could back up a bit, would you do it differently if you could back up a bit?
No, your question. Can I answer your question? So your question is that it's my fault and Rawiri's fault that somebody, instead of going onto the marae, instead of using our constitution, instead of using our tikanga, went to people like you and Fran. Now, that's not how we can play out. We were deeply constrained in coming public until the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
48 hours. That's when we've gone public, not in the last 12 weeks. So get your facts straight.
Well,
thank you very much.
Fran, you've got a question? Quickly before John.
How do we feel about John's response there, Chewie?
This is why I don't like him. Like, with respect to how we were talking about him at the start of the show. And everything that said, look, he's going to be more visible than other party presidents. This is why I don't personally like him. And I think in the interests of his party, I think sometimes he needs to just shut up a little bit.
It was interesting tonight to hear from Debbie say bluntly, literally, that she didn't like him as well. But she rates him as an expert in this area. You know what I mean? Like he is, he's fantastic at what he does. And what you're saying, and what I hear others saying, and seeing it in the chat a little bit, is they don't like his personality. But I guess what I hear Debbie saying is that she loves his and values and respects his political nous. So maybe there's some removal of those two things, be it personal, be it professional. If you're running, I mean, we all want to have bosses or employees or workmates who are both fantastic, lovely people and also brilliant at their job. If you can get someone who's brilliant at their job, but they rub you a bit the wrong way, but they're so brilliant at their job that you definitely want to keep them around, then maybe you make sort of accommodations for that. I'm not saying that's what JT is. I don't know that much, but yeah, it was a fairly prickly response. But then again, it was a fairly prickly question. And now you've got Fran O'Sullivan, of all people, about to ask a question. Speaking of a prickly question or a prickly person around Te Pāti Māori.
moves on.
Look, seriously, JT. I mean, put aside all the biffo at the beginning, like my biffo. Can you just give us an indication?
I don't think we want to hear about Fran O'Sullivan's biffo. That should just stay well away from this conversation.
Of what you expect when you sit down with the iwi Chairs Forum, and is there a pathway to resolving this that keeps the party together or in Parliament, or do you see it fragmenting?
Look, at no time will we be in jeopardy in 4 of the seats.
Mm-hmm.
What Kapakini and Mr. Ferris have done have blunted massive momentum that we'd built, no doubt about that. And so in real politics, there's no way that Māori Waititi, that Debbie Ngarewa-Paka, that Hannah Maipi Clark, and that Orini Kaipara will be defeated in 2026.
That's interesting he'd put Orini in that same category. I mean, like, they're the people who know and have seen the polls. And she did win comfortably at the last election, but at the by-election. But at the last election, that seat was razor thin. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to find out from JT what he knows about that seat and why he's so confident that Te Pāti Māori will hold it. Again, don't know the answer to that, but it's interesting to hear his confidence in that one.
On the basis of that fulcrum, I can guarantee you, when we look to possibly go to new candidates or otherwise, we'll do very well off that very solid base.
Are we hearing it from you first? Orini Kaipara is back in your team?
Well, you don't talk to her. Don't talk to me. Anyway,
Thank you, John.
It's been nice talking to you.
We will get you on the show again shortly. Thank you, comrade.
And if you're unaware of what that was about, there was reports earlier in the week that Orini was siding with Takuta and the Kapakini. So, yeah. So there you go. You've heard something from JT. We can't see him. Didn't see that. We can't see him. And now you've heard from the commentator and Claudette speaking about what she knows and what she sees and what she understands, and especially to do with how Māori approach things. And now you've heard from JT specifically about what's happening within Te Pāti Māori. I think that's a pretty good wrap up for the whole conversation and for at least today's show. Te Woki o Te Tangata. Anything else you want to share? Some super chats?
I'm still, my head's still reeling about the ad campaign that would have to be done for hot, wet cigarettes.
All right. Hey, whānau, I think you've all been very, very well behaved tonight, so we might have an early night, and we'll let you go home early, and you'll get to go and play outside in the backyard before it gets too dark. So well done you. You're going to have an early release date tonight. But before we do that, a couple of super chats. Speaking of Nobson's pledge, release the Hooten tapes. There you go. Citizen says, a phone can be used with a hands-free device for audio calls only. No, that's not true. No, that's not true. Because I use my phone occasionally when I'm calling. Well, my children tend to FaceTime me, and if I'm in the car, I can still push it, and it'll come up on FaceTime, and then it's down there. I'm not watching it, obviously, but it does come on. This is potential evidence of a crime. Looking at the window, he may be parked. I think at the earlier stages, it was a bit lighter outside, and it did look like he was driving. He was
definitely driving at one.
He was going to a meeting.
He said he was late for a meeting.
Yeah.
It actually, just while we're talking about Bomber's show tonight, I noticed something interesting with Fran is when they were talking about the capital gains tax. At every opportunity, she said it was cowardly. It didn't go far enough. She was a big supporter of just an unrestricted capital gains tax on everything. And I want to call that out for what it is. It's a right winger cheering the left on to hopefully do something that would make them unelectable.
Yeah, or at least make them allow the right to have the narrative that they're unelectable, because it mightn't be a bad thing.
It was a pretty transparent attempt, but yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. One more here. I think David Seymour's opposes. Sorry, that was my dyslexia again. Opposes fireworks ban because he wants to unstruct the Pacific People's Ministry. unstruct. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word. All right. Ignore. Yeah. I'm not saying do this, by the way. I'm just saying that your phone connected to you. Although, Chewie, you can probably educate me. My phone actually, okay, I'll retract and maybe apologize. My phone goes through a Bluetooth connector to my Apple Play. So technically it's not connected to the hands-free of the car. It's connected through Apple Play. So could that make a difference? And could that be correct that it won't let you do video if you're on your hands-free? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, most Android Auto CarPlay stuff locks out video while the car is in motion.
Fair enough.
But of course, if it's just off the phone and it's not going through CarPlay or that sort of thing, then yeah.
The other thing is actually I notice what I do quite a lot when I'm driving is I wear my headphones, more so my earbuds than the car speakers, because I like listening to podcasts and stuff. And I just like having it there. And these are the ones that have got transparent mode, so you can still hear what's happening out there. They've got microphones in the whole thing, so don't panic. So maybe it's because I'm using AirPods.
I think you're wrong, Pat. I'm just looking at Tahi's website. The phone must be mounted or operated hands-free. If the phone is secured and operated in the way outlined below, you can legally use your phone while driving.
But that's what I said.
Only be used. Let me finish.
Oh, come on. I want to go to bed. Get a move on.
Make or receive an audio phone call.
So what you're saying is the legislation says you're not allowed to use video when driving your car. Waka Kotahi can't tell you if it. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Like I'm down with that. I think that maybe I got it wrong from Gold. Was it Gold's message? Who said that the phone wouldn't use video?
John Tamihere should be in jail.
Oh man, I hope there's not going to be a fucking headline tomorrow morning. John Tamihere, police knocking on John Tamihere's door to deliver him a ticket. When that's not really what gosh, what was it about? Oh my gosh. Two topics. What's legal and what's possible. Did you know that cars can drive 100 kilometres per hour? But it's not legal to do that around the school zone. Just saying. What's legal and what's possible.
It is now.
It is legal now. You're right.
Yeah, because we had to unlock the productivity inherent in driving 120 kilometres an hour through a school zone.
Yeah.
Because of the economy. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Very well. Look, I'll just say that I was wrong that your video will not work when it's connected to your phone because I don't actually know. I just know that I've been in my car and the videos come on from a call. Maybe my phone wasn't connected to my Apple Bluetooth at the time. I don't know. I'm wrong. And it's not. Let's not die on this hill, Whānau. I know now there's people going to run from the show and never come back and unsubscribe. But let's not do it about this. There will be worse to come in the next 12 months for you to unsubscribe. Let's not make it this one. This is not worth it yet, I don't think. Anywho, Chewie, anything else you want to get to, or are we done? My gosh, I'm not quite sure what to do, Chewie. It's actually a 90-minute show. How about that? 90-minute hour back to it.
Police website now.
Because you're going to dob in John Tamihere.
Look, no, this is the thing. Police aren't fans. They're not fans of it.
Oh, of course.
Straight.
I don't think the police will be fans of any kind of, like in theory. Like, they do those tests. They used to do them on Mythbusters about using a phone in the car versus alcohol and how much even just talking on a hands-free set takes your focus off the road and how it can impact you as much as being mildly drunk. So I would think police are not even fans of phones being used, even just audio, I would think. But I don't know. I feel like I've been backed into a corner. I have to strike out at someone. Who should I strike out at? Nala. Strike out at Nala? No, I would never do that.
Someone just pinged me on an RNZ story about Wayne Brown joining a council transport committee meeting while driving in his car. And they fined him and took the merits off him. So there you go.
Someone wants us to be distracted. See, this is now
all right.
A ploy.
No.
I'm going to go now. All right, team.
That's fine.
I've got a lot of fires in the irons in the fire this week. Lots of. I've got 9 fires going, and I've got 1 iron that I'm moving between all of them. About potential people coming on. I'm not gonna tease too much, but if we get some of them, you'll be stoked. And we'll see what happens. Do you think we'll have Erica Stanford tomorrow night? My guess is no, but
no.
The invite's
like
out
I'll have to think of some questions because you won't be able to articulate any with her in the room.
Easy, big fella. All right, team. Thanks for being with us tonight. Huge thanks to Claudette Hauiti for joining us as well. That was a real buzz. She's one of that circle of people like Mihinarangi Forbes and Paula Penfold and those guys and Moana Maniapoto who are really doing the work that we really respect and look up to. Jack Thames in there as well. I was at your soggy wet cigarette thing.
You can't tell the temperature, but we'll just have to assume that they're oddly warm.
What is the thing? What are the product? Something tobacco?
Heated
tobacco products.
Done. But we must forget that term and just
do
go
wet,
hot, wet cigarettes.
What about wet, soggy cigarettes? That's a bit better, isn't it? Hot, wet cigarettes?
There's an inherent power in the word wet.
Yeah. All right, Whānau. Thank you for being with us tonight. Love you to bits. And we'll catch you, I guess, tomorrow night.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All heavily, either this way or that, and we'll be analyzed by what Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed.
They were trying to bully us into a 2-hour show, Chewie, and I stood up. I stood up for me, I stood up for you, and I stood up for our wives. No 2-hour show tonight. We're done.
You bunch of sickos.
Anything you want to finish on?
No, not allowed.
All right. We will catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for the next edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo, team.
Cheers, man.